Hello everybody, my name's Dwyndl. Hey, this is my third video to do, and for the 3 or 4 of you that actually watch them, I thought I'd change the scenery this time. You still gotta look at my ugly mug, but we got better scenery behind me. So I was just doing a little walking around and thinking, I want to do a little video for you. Or really for me, it encourages me. I was thinking today about an old friend from high school. You know, when I was in high school 80-something years ago, I had a good friend named Scott Decker. And Scott was a little bitty dude. He was real small for his age. He was a little bit younger than me. We hung out a lot. He's a good guy. He really was. And Scott was born, if I remember right, he was born with a hole in his heart, but he had some kind of heart condition, I know, and he'd had some surgeries and things. And we used to go to Sonic. Now, in Olive Branch, Mississippi, where I grew up, it was a little bitty town back then, and there wasn't much to do. And on Friday and Saturday night, this was before the day of cell phones and all that kind of stuff, we would go and cruise around Sonic. As a matter of fact, 2 years in a row, I won most miles around Sonic at the Young People's Choice Awards at our church. And but one afternoon after school, Scott rode with me. We went to Sonic, and I got me something to eat. Offered to buy him something to eat. He said no. I offered it, and he said no. And I put the food down between Scott and me, and next thing I know, he reaches over and grabs and takes some of my fries. Now, when he did that, it was just natural instinct. I didn't think about it. I wasn't intending it at all. But I looked over there, and I saw him taking that fry, and I immediately said, "Wow, boom," right in the chest, as hard as I could. And he immediately started, I thought I killed the boy. I was like, "Oh, Scott, I'm sorry. And I was begging him for, I'm like, "You can have a fry, I swear I didn't mean anything." He's like, No. And to this day, and that happened way back, that's a long time ago, folks. And to this day, if I happen to see Scott, which hadn't happened in a while, or if we talk on Facebook or something like that, Scott always will comment about that. And he'll swear that he'll never take another one of my fries. All because of one time hitting him in the chest. Is that fair? But see, that's what happens. We make choices, we do things, we do something stupid, and it haunts us for the rest of our lives. Boy, do I know that feeling. That story came to my mind today because I was reading through Acts chapter 9. Now, Acts chapter 9 is the story where Saul was converted to become a Christian. Now, if you don't know the story, Saul hated Christians. Matter of fact, Saul was there when the very first martyr was killed. His name was Stephen, and there was a group of men that stoned Stephen to death, and Saul was there, and it says they laid their coats at a young man named Saul, and Saul was completely okay with it. And later on, he was on his way to Damascus, and he was actually on his way there in order to arrest Christians. And on his way to Damascus, he had an encounter with Jesus. And Jesus showed up on the road, and Saul went blind. And he was blind for 3 days, and his buddies had to take him on into Damascus. And when he got there, he went to a man named Ananias. And Ananias, God had already told him Saul was coming. And he told him he wanted to meet with him. Ananias is saying, "But God, this dude, he hates Christians. He wants to arrest us. He wants to put us in prison. He wants to kill us." And God said, "Just trust me. I'm going to teach this boy something." And so he went on to Ananias, and his eyesight was healed, he could see again. He wanted to meet with the disciples, and disciples didn't want to have anything to do with him because they thought he was faking just to get more inside information in order to get more Christians thrown in jail. So they didn't trust him because he had already been known as someone that hated Christians and that wanted to kill them. So he went on and he hooked up with a guy named Barnabas. And Barnabas helped Saul, and he heard Saul preaching, and Barnabas told the others, "Hey, this dude's a real deal." And Saul went on to become Paul, who was the greatest missionary the church has ever seen. Paul wrote the majority of the New Testament. He was an incredible ambassador for Christ. And he was put through some stuff. And he stood strong in his belief that Jesus is the Messiah. And, you know, as he went on to preach the gospel and do great things, in the beginning, people didn't trust him because of who he was before that. Well, this came to mind because I had a friend contact me recently who made a mistake. Well, it's not a mistake. He made a stupid choice a while back. And he knew it was wrong when he did it. And he felt bad about it afterwards. He didn't tell anybody though. He says he confessed it to God, and later on down the road, he began to really seek God and began to grow and become who he thought he was supposed to be as a Christian. And then sometime later, while he's walking with Christ and he's doing the things he thinks he's supposed to do, all of a sudden that past choice showed up, and he was reminded of it, and it knocked him down. I know that feeling because I've done some stupid things in my life. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Dwyndl. I do stupid stuff. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. No, I keep saying that word, and that's not the right word. I've made a lot of stupid choices in my life, and they've hurt people that I love. And so many times I've struggled with feelings of self-worth. And every time I feel like God's doing something in my life, I start to question it because I wonder, what can he really do with me? Or I start to wonder, if he does start to do something in my life again, am I just gonna screw up again? And I'm reading that story of Saul today, and it hits me of who Saul became later. You know, this morning our pastor preached on David, and David is the greatest worship guy we know, right? I mean, he wrote the majority of the Psalms. The Bible says he was a man after God's own heart, and yet he did some stupid things. He committed adultery and murder, all right in one episode. The guy screwed up, but yet God still loved him and still used him. Now, was there some consequences? Of course. But the message today is very simple. All of us screw up. All of us make poor choices. The thing we have to ask ourselves is, are we willing to let God be God in our lives? See, I've made a lot of stupid choices, and I know you have too, if you'll admit it. And it's not about who I am, it's about who he is. So if you will trust him, if you'll repent of your sin and admit that it was wrong, ask God to forgive you, and you'll trust him to be God in your life, I promise you, he'll bless you. He's been putting people in my life every single day for the past few months to remind me of who he is and how much he loves me. Just today, I had the great privilege of working media at our church and the great privilege of being able to share a word of encouragement in front of the church at the end of our worship set. And I had several people come to me afterwards and thank me and encourage me in some way. And you know what? It's something I enjoy doing, but it's just one more sign from God that he still loves me. And he keeps sending people into my life to encourage me and remind me of his love. And so I want to encourage you, if you're struggling today, if you're still holding on to past fears, if you're like my friend who Satan's trying to remind of something you did a while back, just hold on to who Jesus is, because a while back he did something even greater. He paid the penalty for your sin. And in his eyes, if you've repented and you trusted him as Lord, that sin's gone, because God sees the blood of his son, and you've been redeemed. So I hope that'll give you some encouragement. I hope you'll trust, and I hope you'll have a wonderful, blessed day. I'll see you again very soon.